Hello. I've had a bad cold and a bad cough for weeks, but at this point, my desire to upload this wrap-up video outweighs all else. It's the middle of April, and I've already read 3 books that is occupying so much of my brain space, and I don't want to forget about the books that I read in March because there's a lot to unpack. Last month I said I hoped to read something sublime and or something damn fun, and I did. I've seen The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller getting rave reviews from so many Booktube people, and it did not disappoint. I was taken by surprise at how delighted and awed I was by it so immediately. I actually started reading it at Costco while waiting for it to open one morning and couldn't stop giggling at the incongruity of being titillated by the food court. This is a very fun, modern retelling of the story of Achilles and his very good friend that he lives with, Patroclus, but with Patroclus being the main character. He is my new BFF. I love him, and I suppose I identify with Briseis because I feel like he saved me, and I feel connected to him. I see his sensitive and congenial personality, and I respectfully respect his relationship with Achilles. But if he wanted to have babies with me, that's okay too. There are a lot of allegations over this book being fanficky, and I see nothing wrong with that. If anything, the slightly stilted writing mirrors the cold, almost inhuman-like, hyper-masculine nature of Achilles and heightens the many moments of sexual tension throughout the book. I enjoyed this immensely. Circe, I have not heard much about, but I knew I had to immediately consume more Madeline Miller. I hoped for more fun, a la Achilles, but what I got was the sublime. This is a profoundly moving book about womanhood, motherhood, life, by way of a fun modern retelling of the story of Circe, a lesser-known Greek nymph goddess who spends her eternity, mostly in exile, building a life for herself and learning who she is and what she wants and what it means to live. As someone who easily and regularly tips toward nihilism, these kinds of stories resonate a little harder with me. He does not mean that it does not hurt. He does not mean that we are not frightened, only that we are here. This is what it means to swim in the tide, to walk the earth and feel it touch your feet. This is what it means to be alive. I was reading this with my son sleeping next to me, and every struggle and fear that Circe had with Telegonus wrung all the tears out of me. It was really fun seeing the parallels of a woman juggling her work, her child, her unfortunate family crap with ancient Greek mythology. I love this so much. I was pretty much immediately manifesting an on-screen adaptation, and that's how I found out it's currently in pre-production with HBO Max, but also found The Atlantic article, which ultimately disheartened me, and I'm probably not going to see it done justice for a while. I just really need to see a woman living her best life alone on an island with some gorgeous farm porn that is the fruit of her witchery. I personally have a brown thumb, so seeing a woman with very green thumbs is incredibly satisfying to watch. I've never read the Odyssey or the Iliad, but I did as a child obsess over my beloved, very tattered copy of D'Aulaire's Book of Greek Myths, and have watched every episode of Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and Xena Warrior Princess. But I have these penguin little black classics and thought I'd read them for further context. Trimalchio's Feast by Patronius is an excerpt from the Satyricon, and it's about horrible people, greed, debauchery, inequality. I honestly can't tell you, really, because I literally nodded off every other page reading this. And when I was awake and cognizant, it didn't stir any feelings other than same old. Circe and the Cyclops by Homer is an excerpt from the Odyssey, And it's thrilling. It makes me that much more appreciative of Madeline Miller's work, taking the thread of Homer's Circe and spinning it into the rich tapestry that is her book. Odysseus is famously the quick-witted and brave main character, and it feels so pleasing to know that there is a his and a hers of this same story. To the Lighthouse is my continued, diligent exploration of Virginia Woolf. I admit that part of the reason for my late upload is because I spent time struggling with what to say about it, how I felt about it, which is that ultimately I'm left unmoved. And my God, I feel like such an insensitive, unfeminist ogre. I open myself to let the prose wash over me, to sous vide myself in the low burn of her anti-patriarchy essence. But I just didn't care about Lily Briscoe, about Mrs. Ramsay, her terrible husband, and the fates of their 8 children. What's worse is the most I felt in this whole story was for their summer house and all their things inside getting moldy and in a sad state of disrepair during its many long years of abandonment. I mean, what the hell does that say about me? And for the cherry on top, I almost DNF'd this, which is something I never do. So I should probably give myself a break before my next Virginia Woolf. I have The Waves and Orlando, and I love the movie starring Tilda Swinton, so those will be eventually read. Just hoping for some kind of heart transplant for one that actually works, I suppose, as far as Woolf is concerned at least. Every amazing woman, feminist I know, reads and loves her books, and I want to be a part of that. Last year, I told myself, I'm not reading a single book from the 21st century, just reading classics and modern classics, and I ended up chasing so much new influenced by Booktube hyping new releases. So this year, I told myself to be very selective with new releases that I choose to read and stick to my shortlist. I bought way too many books last year that I did not get around to reading, and I need to cut that habit. Groundskeeping by Lee Cole is a new release that I, for some reason, and can no longer remember why, have been eagerly anticipating. This is another book that made me dwell for too long what I should say about it because I'm not out here to be mean, but I'm genuinely left feeling as ambivalent, veering towards cynical as Owen, the main character, feels. For him, the direction of his life. For me, the true purpose for the existence of this book. It's a love story about Owen, a rural, drifting, sensitive soul of a guy whose burden is that he's from a Trump-supporting Southern Baptist Christian family, falling in love with Alma, a coastal elite, upper-middle-class Muslim girl who is at the university Owen works for as a groundskeeper on a visiting writing fellowship, there to write her novel. I did not find the romance to be compelling. On the contrary, pretty much the entire time I kept thinking, bitch, write your book. All she seemed to do is read Jane Austen, go shopping, and complain about loneliness. So I can only venture to say that this is a thinly veiled autofiction, and Cole himself is exercising a particular girlfriend from his past. I think I'm supposed to think that this is a doomed, perhaps even tragic, but a beautifully contemporary romance. But for such a progressive, ally type of guy, there sure is a lot of male-gazing and patronizing going on, and he paints Alma so insufferably that I have no sympathy for Owen or for Cole. It's giving Lexi's play vibes, aka the bad art friend. For the final nail in the coffin, this book has its own Spotify playlist, so if you find yourself vibing with it, maybe this book is for you, and it's very much a no from me. I saw Linen Librarian including like a Q1 summary in her March wrap-up video, and I want to do that too. Out of 24 books that I read so far, the clear standout is Circe. She's bae. The worst is Oh Beautiful by Jung Yun, which I was so sure would be the worst book I could possibly read this year. But the first book that I read in Q2 actually beat it. The best character I read thus far, I got so much about Patroclus being my BFF, and he is, and obviously Circe. But an honorable mention goes to Mildred Lathbury in Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. I still have warm residual feelings for her, passively experiencing all the colorful people in her life while still remaining true to herself and never letting go of that, no matter how strongly it was suggested that she be with Julian the Vicar, or the dashing Rockingham Napier, or even the elegant and refined Everard Bone. I'm like in love with these names. Mildred is a single lady, and she's happy to be so, and she can drink all of the cups of tea that she wants. That was my Q1 of 2022. Started off slow and steady, but we're picking up the pace, enthusiasm level-wise at least. April reading is already giving me so much joy. But thank you for watching as always, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. This is around my 1-year Booktube anniversary mark, and I wanted to change up my format a little bit. I am complete poop at speaking on camera, but this has always been about enjoyment, experimentation, fulfillment. So I just like to say thank you again, and I hope we all have great reading months ahead.